Welcome to High Five this Friday the 13th. Very special day because it's World Kindness Day, and we've got a lovely, kind human being with us today as our special guest. We post this every single Friday at 5 p.m. to talk about the last 5 days of learning. And last week, Rory and I got a lovely high five from Jeff Way, where he nominated the wonderful Bev Holden. Hello, Bev.
Hello, I feel as though I should do jazz hands. Hello, I'm
Jazz
here.
hands. Double high fives. Hey, jazz fun hands. Brilliant. So you doing all right? You doing
Who,
good?
me?
Yes,
Oh,
you.
yes, sorry.
He
Yes,
doesn't want to talk to me. He's
No, I
just
don't want to
talking
talk
to
to
me.
him. He's just a bystander that comes every week and flashes his fancy office while we're all stuck in our
yeah,
houses, you
yeah.
know.
So,
Um,
yes, thank you. I'm very good. I'm very good. Thank you very much.
Good. So you got a nomination last week. Rory, can you just remind us what card that Jeffrey pulled out of his lovely pile?
And indeed, it was the Wish You Were Here card.
Magical. And that card features Michelle Parry Slater, who did a lovely story about her cruise that she was on. Do you remember those days when you could go cruises and holidays? So nostalgic when I watch it now. And there's also another video that I filmed on there from a beach. And the beach that I was on looks down to the northwest coast of England and over to the Isle of Man, and then across the island from the beach that I filmed that video on. So I wonder if those last 5 days of learning might feature some of those areas, perhaps. Bev, tell us what you did with the card that Jeff gave you, please.
So, Jeff seems to be inspired by my walk to work, my hashtag walk to work, because I live by the coast. I live on the Fylde coast, and I take photos of my walk each day. And my motivation for doing that is that I love living by the sea, but also it changes every day. And I do my walk to work as my non-standard commute, because we have to do non-standard commutes now. But I always did it, actually. I did it before all of this strangeness happened. And I try and find a spot along the coast and take a photo from that spot every day so I can see how it changes. And I guess I do that walk to work because it is a chance for me to let my thinking settle. It's a chance for me to move, because we spend a lot of time sat now. And sometimes I fill my ears with other people's voices. So sometimes it's audiobooks, sometimes it's podcasts, because we know some amazing people who do podcasts, apparently.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's podcasts and sometimes it's real live human beings, but then that depends on the wind. Because if it's really windy, you can't hear me on the phone, so it doesn't work. So that's what normally happens. But then I was also thinking about the card and thinking about Wish You Were Here, and about how it's involving other people in your learning journey. That card, for me, that's what it says. It's about involving other people. So this week, as well as the regular hashtag walk to work thingamabob, we've also welcomed somebody into our world, to find out a little bit more about what they do and how they do their job, because I learn a lot through conversations. It's turned out to be my preferred way of doing things, and everything we've done over lockdown has been really conversation based, and listening to other people's conversations is really interesting. So we have drawn a gentleman called Guy Unsworth into our world, and Guy is a theatre director and writer. And what has really piqued our interest in his work is he talks about the invisible director and about the power of the ensemble. And they were two things, actually. We started the process yesterday. We did an interview last night with him to find out what those things mean to him and why they're important, because we think there's some inspiration in there for leaders in the workplace today. And do you know what? It was such a fascinating conversation. It was one of those where I was on the edge of my seat, and we only took 10 minutes to do the whole thing, and just set Guy off talking about the invisible director and what that means. And we were literally on the edge of our seats, Kate and I. It was just amazing. So that's, I guess we want to know more about his world. We've described it. I don't know what we're going to do with the recordings, but we've described it as it's the kaleidoscope conversations. So it's where the worlds, wait for this, it's really cheesy, it's where the worlds of theatre and people development collide. The kaleidoscope.
Brilliant.
Can I get a bell?
Just when you're talking there, because I know Rory and I both know the world of work that you work in through your clear thinking partnership with Kate as well. Um, have you got your M cards to hand, by the way? Any clear thinking cards in your office in front of you?
Of course.
Because it's right only to do a random plug-a-thon for cards while we're talking about cards as well. Could you just hold them up in a nice game show style up to camera?
We don't do that. We don't do that.
We don't. No, let's give her a game show. Ooh, Rory.
I think we need to.
Ooh, lovely. But they inspire so many thoughts, I suppose, in what you're saying there from the kaleidoscope area as well. It must give you so many clear thoughts in terms of what next and where you go with some of those things. So you thought about how you're going to use that in your job going more forward, or is it just at an early stage around where you might use it? Have you got any kind of instant sparks that are kicking off for you?
I don't know. It's early stages, but there's so much richness in the conversation, so much about just the elegant way in which it's possible to immerse teams in an experience so that they get a feeling of what they're doing, not they don't get told what it is to experience. So yeah, it is really early days because it's all still percolating, and I've just been going through the audios today and listening to them again. But I think there's something very graceful about the way Guy does his work that I think there's transferable lessons into the rest of our world and work and what we do.
Kirsty and I were talking the other week about David Perel's Urban Street Wisdom talks as well, and walking and what you can learn from your urban environment. And another book by David Perel's, the Will Be Donuts book, and in that there's a whole piece about theatre, about point of concentration, about what is the point of concentration within any actor's theatrical show when they're on that stage and they're trying to focus on the moments that are happening for the audience and trying to be really present with that audience within the show. So I love the idea of taking inspiration from things that are seemingly abstract, but they actually become so relevant if you find ways to knit them within other worlds as well. I think they're brilliant. And I know that Rory's history, there's a lot of narrative stuff probably within that, Rory, as well, from your experience.
Absolutely, yeah. And just looking at things as diverse as film and storytelling, and how that all comes together through pieces of art and script writing and screenwriting, and that's just, for me, it's what fascinates me, the collaborative process of filmmaking in particular. So I'd love to learn more about what it is that you've been going through, Bev. That whole idea of ensemble, it's so many people come together to create something that has movement behind it, you know.
Yeah, well, we were talking about how the ensemble, or what they used to be called, was the chorus, but the ensemble, they don't always have lines. There is no script for them, but they're there to elevate the presence of the main actors, to really focus the attention of everyone. It's like the action's here, people, and we are helping. But how difficult it is to describe that, and yet how relevant that is in the workplace, where there are maybe some key players trying to make something happen, and there's all these, the ensemble is around, but they don't really get what's going on, and they're not able to amplify the impact of what those key players are doing because they don't understand. And Guy's way of explaining how he helps people just fall into that feeling of how they create that, and it's really difficult because it's not like you can explain it in a series of steps, you know, do this, manage this, say this, act this way. It's not about that. It is about giving people a sense of feeling, and we don't really talk about feelings very much often in the workplace. It's still quite alien for people to acknowledge that they're driven by their feelings an awful lot.
There's an incredible video, if you ever get a chance to see it on YouTube. It's one of the final run-throughs of the whole cast and ensemble for The Greatest Showman as they were trying to get it greenlit. And Hugh Jackman, there's a story there that I won't spoil for you, but it's essentially how he, as the leader of the whole cast, brings just the room with him, but he just brings the whole cast and the ensemble together. And I actually think that as a reflection of leadership, kind of going back to what you're saying, go and watch that video if you haven't seen it, and it's just incredible how he brings a room to life. And I think if you could do that and recreate that in an organization or whatever work of life it is, a classroom even, there's just some unspeakable power in it and how he brings it together. So if you haven't seen it yet, for both of you, definitely encourage you to watch it.
I will. It's there alongside the other video of Hugh Jackman's with him copying Kirsty Mack's buttocks.
It probably is, yeah. On YouTube, they're probably
as well. It's kind of always
just type in Hugh Jackman from now on, And just watch that. I think it's about 4 minutes, but it just will leave you feeling incredible for a Friday. But everything that Bev has just talked about, I think it really does encapsulate it.
Every superhero needs a sidekick. You know, that's how I see ensembles. You don't get to be the hero in every single movie you ever star in. So, you know, it takes all different parts to make something come to life. So you've got a whole selection of cards in front of you, Bev. You've got some cognitized cards in there. You've got some clear thinking cards in there. I'm going to ask you to pick a card and ask you to pick a person of who you would like to give that card to. And I get so excited about this part every Friday because people might not believe this, but when I chat to Bev or whoever it might be before the call, I say to them, let's talk about what we're going to talk about in a very kind of brief summary, but I don't want to at any point know what card and who. I want to be as surprised as the audience are. So,
okay, so I have picked the card Look Up at the Stars.
Nice. Oh, nice.
As the Demon Dealer got his card there from his deck.
I got it quicker than Rory this week.
Hey. So I have chosen this card because I've had a conversation with this person earlier in lockdown, and we were talking about what she was appreciating most about her experience at the moment. And she said, lying in the hammock in the garden, looking up at the stars. And I thought, ooh, this is a person that you probably need to high five with. So I would like to nominate Sarah Rudder from Ginger Dog Development, co-founder of Field Trip Online, to be your guest next week and to do something with Look Up at the Stars.
That sounds magical. No, I haven't spoken to Sarah before, but I think I have been in her company at a Zoom session, and she was there at the same time I was there, but we weren't in the same conversation space. But that'd be brilliant.
So Sarah, myself, John Bartlett, and a gentleman called Pete Bryceland formed something called the Cogitarium at the start of lockdown. And so we got together and had a conversation about some of the themes that were emerging for our clients so that we could record something that was helpful for them. I have never met Sarah in person, and yet I feel like I know her so well because we've had that many conversations about really important stuff. So I'm excited that she's going to be your next participant.
So if you could make that lovely introduction to Sarah for us, that would be absolutely first class. And Sarah, if you're watching this, because you are now going to be tagged on LinkedIn, or implicated, I think, as you said last week, Bev, we will come and speak to you next Friday. Thank you very much, Bev, for taking time out of your Friday afternoon before it turns into, well, it probably is about gin o'clock. It's nearly 5, so not until we get
somewhere.
So, thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Have a lovely weekend. High five, everyone.
High five.
High five. See you next week.